Hey everyone, welcome to the show, My So-Called Fabulous. I'm Tiffany and welcome. And you know what? We talk about it a lot. We just do, health and wellness. And you asked me so much, so many questions, so many things to talk about on the show. Thank goodness. Thank you all. But you can't sleep and your gut hurts or your gut's giving you trouble. And I know because I've been there and I have turned a corner. I really have, and I've explained that. But if you've followed along on my feed, and if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you are very familiar with the family-owned Sunflower Shop. They're in Fort Worth and Colleyville, and a family-owned business, I think around 30 years, but I'm going to get the information on that here because I have the Chief Nutrition Officer, Bryan Bradford, with me today, and he's in the family. How did I not know that, Bryan? Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. We really appreciate you having me on today.
Well, I appreciate it too. And you know what? You have a podcast as well.
We do.
What is your podcast?
It's called the Healthy Approach Podcast. And
Yes.
You can find it on sunflowershop.com.
Absolutely. And I follow along. You have great guests, and you're doing what I'm doing. We are trying to solve problems,
That's right.
or at least help, right?
Yeah, just try to get information out there, right? That's our real goal, is trying to help people get educated about what's out there, because a lot of people don't know there's other options available.
There's so many, and we're fighting an industry. We're fighting a thought process with so many Americans is what we're dealing with. But tell me a little bit, just tell everybody quickly, because we're global. Tell us about Sunflower Shop. I mean, I've talked about it for months and almost a year now, but tell us.
Sunflower Shop is a family-owned business, as you said, 53 years, actually. It's what we've been in business on now. I'm actually third generation. My grandmother started in 1970, so I have basically just grown up in this industry, which has been a beautiful thing in so many ways. And then we got a fourth generation now starting with both stores as well, too.
Wow.
So we hope to keep going and going and going.
I'll bet your grandmother, your grandmother's still with us?
No, she has passed.
She's passed.
She sure has, but it's been such a blessing. I mean, as far as passing from generation to generation, because most family businesses don't make it past the third generation.
No.
So we've been very fortunate.
I mean, that is so true, so true. Okay, 50 years ago, with your grandmother starting this business, how did she have the foresight to start this business of functional wellness, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting question, because back then it was voodoo, right? In so many ways.
Yes.
They looked at health food and health industry with people like Adele Davis and people like her who are trying to get health information out there, but we just didn't have the science to back up a lot of things. But we had thousands of years of using plants and herbs and so forth, so we knew something was there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but she got into it because her sister was dying of leukemia. And she saw the healthcare model and how it wasn't really helping her. And she was just saying, there's got to be another way. And that's when she started on her search and hooked up with Adele Davis's books that were out there and said, hey, there's other ways of trying to help the body heal itself.
Wow.
And that's where it all started.
Oh, my goodness. And, you know, I was telling you earlier, when I walk in your store, one of my favorites, I love her. Guadalupe is one of my favorites. She's helped me with my sleep so much. She's at the Fort Worth location. But I'm serious. Anyone on your staff, they just direct me in the right place. And I love if they don't have the answer, they send me to the right person.
That's exactly what I want to hear, Tiffany, because that's what we strive to do, is that we don't have all the answers to health out there, but we do know how to find the answers. Mm-hmm. And so that's important. But our crew, as you said, just like Guadalupe and so many others, are so educated. We've been very blessed with the staff at both our locations that just have not just want to help people, but a passion to love and be empathetic towards their needs. Yeah. And that's what they really strive for. So it's been a blessing in many ways.
Yes. And there are so many years. I mean, it's a rarity to me in this day and age to keep people so long.
We don't have a high turnover at all.
It does.
Yeah.
And you have groceries.
Yes, we have groceries. Well, I've always jokingly said that we're sort of the 7-Eleven of Whole Foods. You got a little bit of everything, but not everything. Yes.
Yeah. It's just amazing. And until I really dug in and started working with you and Erica, I just love Erica, your sister, your bonus sister.
That's right.
And that's part of the business and just so amazing.
Yeah, there's 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
Wow.
Yep.
And now your daughter is.
And now my daughter and my brother's son is actually at the Fort Worth store. So yes, they're coming in.
So the people that are living across the United States, you can help them,
yes.
right? You have online.
We do. We have online. I have a consulting practice. It's not just the Sunflower Shop side of it, but I do consulting both virtually, people all over the country. Okay. I've been doing it now for close to 30 years. So I really enjoyed, be able to reach out to people no matter where you are. We can try to help you get that information you're seeking.
Well, I love that. And we are going to have all of Bryan's information and all Sunflower Shop in the show notes. So don't worry about that. We'll get that to you. All right, let's dig in.
Let's do it.
You and I could talk about anything, and we have multiple. So don't think this is the last time I'm going to bug you to get over here. So, I want to talk because a lot of our followers, our audience has issues with sleep and gut. And yes, last night, I think I texted you and I said, what if we do both? And I didn't realize there is a correlation.
There's many correlations to that.
Tell me.
And where I like to start with my clients, it's helping them understand a simple hormone that I know you've talked about on many podcasts called cortisol. Cortisol is our stress hormone. But where people don't fill in those gaps of that information of cortisol is that there's three main things that make cortisol go high. Number one is stress. Number two is inflammation. And number three is drops in blood sugar. So we have stress, inflammatory issues, and blood sugar problems that can all drive this hormone to go high. And when it does, it can start a cascade of events to start to happen. Digestive issues, gut problems, sleep issues, anxiety, list goes on if we don't stop it.
Right. Do you feel like those are those the top of your list of people's complaints when they come in?
I would say most people fit in those three groups. And when I say, like inflammation, for example, inflammation doesn't have to mean pain. We don't have to have joint pain just to call it inflammation. What's one of the biggest things that a lot of people suffer from, especially here in Texas? Allergies. Allergies is inflammation of the sinus cavities, heartburn, indigestion. That's inflammation tissue of the stomach. If you got a lot of bloating or IBS issues in the GI tract, that means your gut is inflamed. Any of those inflammatory processes makes cortisol go up because cortisol is an anti-inflammatory hormone. So it's important to understand that relationship between those three things. Now, we can't always control our stress levels, but there's things we can do to help manage that. Inflammation is another, big topic for a lot of people because we have to figure out what is your inflammatory process if there is one. But blood sugar is the one we have the biggest control over because look at type 2 diabetes, how fast it's growing in our country. Most people are not being taught how to manage their sugar properly. And plus, we have so many diets and programs out there that are just confusing people. Like, where do I start? I start with just two simple rules, two simple tips, and this is what everybody can start doing today, even with their kids. Rule number one is that we want to eat something every few hours, every 3 or 4 hours. Does that mean a full plate of food? Not at all. It can just mean 2 almonds. But it goes into rule number two. Rule number two is never, 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 write that down 3 times, Tiffany, eat a carbohydrate alone. Always have a protein or fat to go with it.
Okay, say that again.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'm writing as fast as I
know.
can.
It's okay.
Okay.
Rule number one is to eat something every 3 to 4 hours. And rule number two is never eat carbs alone. Always add protein.
Okay.
Why do we do that? Why are those rules? Did you know those are 2 diabetic standard principles that most diabetics should know, but they don't?
Wow.
And the reason is rule number one, by eating every few hours, you stop from happening. You stop your blood sugar from dropping. And if your blood sugar doesn't drop, what hormone doesn't have to go up? Cortisol. That's right. So then in rule number two, if you have a banana that has more sugar in it than a bowl of ice cream, most people don't look at it as far as good potassium, but not from the sugar point of view, and you eat that banana by itself, what's going to happen to your blood sugar? It's going to spike on you.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes later, what's going to happen? It's going to start to crash and causing cortisol to rise. So, but if you had some almond butter or some peanut butter or a couple of almonds to go with that banana, then what happens to your blood sugar? We have this slow increase and this slow decrease without this big spike and crash.
Wow.
So both of those rules help us control cortisol in many ways. And if people would just start with those 2 basic principles right there, it's amazing how many things start to get better.
Wow.
Now, I know there's intermittent fasting and all these other things we can always dive into later, which I'm a fan of.
Okay.
But in the world we're living in today, when people are having sleep issues and gut problems, what I usually call the cortisol problems, then we need to control cortisol first. That's the first thing we need to do.
When you just said what you said, okay, because the first thing that popped in my mind was the intermittent fasting. I don't do that. I've tried it a few times. It's not for me.
What happened, if I may ask?
Well, I work out super early in the morning. So when I come back after a workout, I am I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to
You're getting the
refuel
signal to refuel, right?
for sure. And so here comes the headaches if I don't.
And
So,
what is that a sign of on your chemistry? That your blood sugar has dropped. And
see?
that means you're allowing cortisol to start to go up. So that's why intermittent fasting is not for everybody, because we do need to control that cortisol mechanism better.
Yes.
And that's why some people can't handle going very long without eating. But there's a lot of people who do. I'm not going to
Yes.
deny that group of people. It's just for most people, when we're dealing with sleep and gut and GI issues, we need to start to understand this cortisol mechanism a little bit better, because it also is what creates a lot of our emotions or our mood swings and so forth too.
Right.
Cortisol is a player in all of that.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah. So, and my point was one size does not fit all.
That's right.
Isn't that
That's
true?
right. Exactly.
That is, that's obvious. But with your business and helping treat people, that's tough, right?
It is tough. I mean, it really is, because we're all in the same boat, Seth. The American lifestyle, we're all living the same foods and trying to do better. And, my definition of health is very simple. It's about doing more good than bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at me being perfect. I'm not an organic 100% of the time. I enjoy life like a glass of wine here and there.
Sure.
But it's understanding not to be paranoid of the world, but to make sure your body can deal with it. That's the way I view the health of each person's body. So it's just trying to identify those weaknesses and try to help them move forward with that.
Right, right. Y'all, let me interrupt the show for just a minute to introduce you to one of my new favorite products. Following my breast explant surgery, I discovered ASEA and have been using Renew 28 ever since. Seriously, I'm not sure how I ever lived without this product. The fabulous gel has helped fluff my breasts post-surgery, reduce the crepiness on my arms, tighten and smooth my face, and help heal a nasty scar on my daughter's foot. I'm serious, it's so fabulous. This will continue to be a staple in my home for sure. You will just love the youthful appearance it provides and the hydrated, smooth way your skin will feel. I love all the ASEA products I've tried, and I'm sure you will too. Learn more and shop at shopasea.com/Tiffany Blackmon. And again, that's shopasea.com/Tiffany Blackmon, or click the link in the show notes. This cortisol and then sleep and gut, because why in the world, when we are so advanced in technology and medicine, and in this day and age when we were talking about this just generation, why are we all so sick?
That's a great question.
And I'm not saying we all are.
Yeah.
But
we could be healthier. That's a better way to look at it. And let's go back to that cortisol mechanism for a second. As you know, cortisol is that stress response. It puts us in our fight or flight mode, right? For a lot of people. But what if cortisol stays high? Let me back up. Cortisol has a pattern to it where it's supposed to be the highest in the morning, starts to drop by lunch, be even lower by 4 p.m., and by midnight should be its lowest point. That's what our normal pattern should look like. But I stopped doing cortisol tests on people years ago because everybody looked the same. They look like mountains and roller coasters.
yeah.
And that's because of the stress of their life, how we're eating, and what's creating inflammation for us, the three things that are driving it. And now we understand the science, especially when it comes to sleep issues, that if cortisol is too high at night, it plays a part in the suppression of melatonin. So that's the person who's laying in bed, their mind's spinning 100 miles an hour, their body's tired, but they can't go to sleep.
That's me.
And then there's the next person who maybe wakes up between 2 and 3 on the dot every night, sometimes has to go to the restroom. Now, there's a lot of other reasons for that, but a big player of that is blood sugar dropping.
Wow.
So that will also wake you up and cause the cortisol spike too as well. And then while we're in that fight or flight mode, here's the big part with digestion connection. When cortisol is high, we were made to run away from danger, right? That's what we were made to run. But we weren't made to eat and run at the same time. So when cortisol is staying high, it's actually suppressing digestive function, and especially an acid in your stomach called hydrochloric acid. This acid is what breaks down your proteins and your minerals such as iron and calcium and so forth. But when we have high cortisol, we have that low production of that stomach acid. So now when you go to eat that nice organic piece of chicken on a stressful stomach, as I call it, it's not breaking down very well because there's not enough acid there. So it sits there too long and starts to ferment. And that fermentation process now creates the bloating, the gas.
Yeah.
If it goes on long enough, you can get into the heartburn side. And then now we have undigested proteins going into the small intestines, creating inflammation and making the immune system work harder.
Wow.
Until one day it goes into the next phase of autoimmune. That's a different topic.
Oh, gosh.
But it's all connected.
So much.
It's all connected. But you've heard the old cliche that everything begins in the gut. It does. And really, I'd go say it's what we smell, what we taste, how we chew. We're not even chewing our foods enough anymore.
No.
So we're inhaling these large Texas-sized portions of food, and Mom always told you to do what?
Finish what's on your plate.
Clean your plate. That's it. So we're eating these large portions under stress or duress to some degree, relying on our stomach's digestive enzymes that are barely there to deal with that. And so now this is leading to a lot of gut issues. So that's why I'm saying we go all the way full circle, help us control the cortisol mechanism.
Right.
That's what we need to go back to.
When you have someone come to you and talk to you, or when you have a client and they tell you they have sleep issues,
yes,
do you ask them what's going on in their gut? Is that a question?
That is a question. I ask them a lot of questions, but that is definitely one of them. The easiest one for most people is just tell me about your day. I can see the patterns of how you're eating. Tell me what you ate. How stressed were you that day? What did that look like when you lay down to go to bed that night? I can find the patterns of what's going on as far as why are you not sleeping at night if that's the case. If you're the person who can't get to sleep or the person who can't stay to sleep, there's reasons for that.
Right.
And I'm going to help you identify those.
How important is sleep? I know the answer to this, but tell us all.
So important. I mean, you're not healing if you're not sleeping. And that plays in so many other things. It makes your blood sugar worse, your mind feel weak, your body's fatigued, you're losing energy. And that's not the way we should be doing. We need to get our sleep. I think the latest CDC result says 1 in 3 people aren't sleeping. And so that's a large group of people out there.
Right.
And my issue is I think a lot of it goes back to the cortisol mechanism. How is your stress? How is your inflammation? And how are you controlling your blood sugar?
Right.
Those are the 3 mechanisms.
My girl Guadalupe over in Fort Worth got me on magnesium glycinate.
Yes.
I was on, I think she looked at me when I met her last year and just kind of shook her head, but I was not sleeping at all. Nothing before I had explant surgery. And I was afraid of the magnesium because of my colitis. But once I got on that, and I was on tramadol and whatever I could take. And my doctor, her thought process, and I told you this earlier, is you got to sleep. But it wasn't even working. I had a doctor say, this could knock a gorilla out, Tiffany.
You're referring to the tramadol?
Yes, and magnesium. And I was taking, Guadalupe, thank you. I was taking 35 milligrams of melatonin every night. And
it didn't work either, did it?
Okay, but y'all told me that's not, you shouldn't take 35 milligrams of melatonin, right? It's 5.
I honestly don't think most people even need melatonin.
Oh, see?
Yeah, it goes back to if you control cortisol, you can control the melatonin production. So it's about getting to the root of the issue. Yes, melatonin may help some people. I'm not denying it. It's been proven, especially since COVID, that's a great antioxidant. Well, it is because most people aren't even sleeping.
Yeah.
So if we have our natural production of melatonin up, it can change a lot of people's lives. But usually it goes back to the cortisol mechanism that's suppressing it in the first place.
Wow.
So that's why we got to make that connection. Now, magnesium's great because it does help the body relax. It's the most efficient nutrient in Americans' diets. That's why it's the #1 selling product in our stores. And it has been for 20 years.
Really?
The #1 selling mineral product. And so there's so many people who are devoid of magnesium, but that's because stress makes you deplete magnesium very quickly. And so do you have stress, Tiffany?
Just a little. Just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little. And so I started the magnesium, got off the tramadol, removed toxins from my body too, right?
Yes, that's huge.
That's huge.
It was causing inflammation.
For sure. Huge.
Right.
And my, colitis is better, sleep is better. But you know what I'm addicted to?
What's that?
I have an Oura ring, and I'm like, okay, what are you saying? I only got 6 minutes of deep sleep. Why do we need, and how can you tell me how to get deep sleep?
Well, honestly, I know it sounds too simple, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it goes back to what are you doing during your waking hours can really make a difference in your sleeping hours. So you got to go look at your lifestyle. If it's stress response, what are you doing for stress? One of the biggest things that we know about in research right now that helps us with cortisol, bringing it down, is exercise.
Yeah.
Exercise is one of the best things. That's why people get that exercise rush or they feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
I joke about that. Yeah, you can go to the gym for an hour and reduce your cortisol, but you get in the car, you have road rage on the way home, and your stress response goes right back up.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing for that? Are we meditating? Are we prayers, yoga, whatever we got in our lives to help our bodies relax?
Mm-hmm.
That's step number one. But to get that deep sleep, we also need to reduce our inflammatory burden. So are we eating a bunch of sugars or things or offending foods that are causing inflammation in our GI tract? That's what I'm always searching for, is what could be causing inflammation in your body. Maybe it's just seasonal allergies that we need to deal with, or heartburn. All these people on antacids, it's crazy.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big issue out there.
Okay. And I know, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place.
All over the place.
But I know y'all are following me. But the antacids, back in, gosh, it's been 20, 25 years. I was really, Nexium at the time was over it was prescription. And I actually was taking a lot. And I had a wonderful doctor, functional, 20 years ago, that broke me of that. And that was terrible because I had GERD. You talked about having the same thing.
That's what got me into it.
See, yes. And so how when I see people in my family popping Prilosec,
Nexium, omeprazole, Zantac, Tums. I mean, there's so many things out there. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, we grew up chewing Tums like candy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. Now, I'm not against the medicine. It does help people's symptoms, and a lot of people need it in the beginning. But after that, we need to understand, why do we have to live on it? Because I challenge anybody to go take your medication or take your over-the-counter, antacid, look at the side of the box and tell me what the warning says. It says don't take longer than 6 to 8 weeks. And how many years have you been on it?
For sure.
Most people were on it for years. What is that really doing? Well, remember in the initial stage, I talked about cortisol suppressing your stomach acid. Well, antacids come in and block all acid production, both good and bad. And so that's not a good thing when you're eating that good piece of chicken that we talked about earlier, because that means you're not going to break down those proteins as efficiently as you did without the antacids. So we need to find out the problem of, why do you have to stay on it? For a lot of people, it could be a food sensitivity. It could be stress response, maybe too much alcohol, too much sugar. There's a lot of reasons for it. But we need to figure out which one are you that's keeping you on that type of medication. But that medication also has been leading to type 2 diabetes, kidney issues, osteoporosis. I mean, we're seeing so many problems because you're not breaking down your minerals in your stomach as efficiently either.
Wow.
So we got to get off the antacids, but we need to understand, why are we on it in the first place? And that's what we try to promote.
Wow. That is amazing because, you see, it's just there. Like, just exactly what you said.
It's convenient. Yeah. It's easy to pop a pill after you got a little bit of heartburn.
I know. I think I learned my lesson really a long time ago, and how difficult it was to break. Not only the habit, it helped me.
That's right.
It just helped me. You have GERD. You said that's.
I had GERD. Yeah, I solved it by taking digestive enzymes, not probiotics, but digestive enzymes is what really saved me. Meaning that I was under so much stress after getting out of the military and transitioning and so forth, that I just couldn't break down my foods properly, and that created a fermentation issue, which created a GERD in the long run. So the bottom line is, I wasn't breaking down my proteins very well. And in today's world, we're starting to see a trend finally, which I hope it doesn't end up staying as a trend, but they're finally getting information out about how important protein is in our body. And this plays into sleep for that side too, Tiffany, because protein, like from chicken, breaks down into amino acids. Amino acids is what helps us make neurotransmitters. So you're happy and sad, and all the emotions we deal with relies on that protein consumption. Very, very important. This is why even a lot of ADD and ADHD can be attributed to just a low protein, high carb diet. Sometimes that can correct or help a lot of kids who are having those type of focus issues. Not all the ADDs that way, but for a lot of people it is. It's just a protein deficiency. Now go back to what we talked about earlier about the high cortisol response, low stomach acid. Even the protein we are eating, we're not breaking down as efficiently as we could. And so that's leading to our mood swings, our deep sleep issues, our muscle mass building. I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into. So it's so important to make sure your gut is fixed first. But I look at it from the point of view is, what's your cortisol doing through the day? That's a big response.
Right. Okay, I'm going to have you walk through two scenarios that we're talking today. Let's say Jane Doe. We all know her.
Yeah, Jane.
We known her for a long time.
Seen her for years.
Jane, you're getting kind of old.
Yes.
She walks in and says, I have indigestion, I'm belching, I have gas, cramps, bloating. What are you going to do with her?
The first thing I can do easily is put her on a digestive enzyme, which means it's something that your stomach and pancreas already make. We're just giving you more of that. That means you're going to break down fats, proteins, carbs, sugars much faster than letting them sit there and ferment or go rancid or whatever may happen from that point on. So I'm going to put her on the enzyme to make sure she's breaking down everything she's putting in her mouth as far as food. And so that's the first step that would probably help many of her symptoms improve very quickly too. That's the best part. Now we also got an inflammatory issue because maybe she's been having that bloating for years in the lining of her stomach. She may have some ulcers or some things going on there. We need to help her with some inflammation. So there's glutamine and DGL, licorice, and a lot of great things that are available out there to help the healing of that lining of that inflammation. So there's some great GI products for that.
Right.
So those are two simple things she can do, and follow the rules for the cortisol mechanism. Right. Eat every few hours and always have protein with every carb.
I've told you a little bit about my story last year, and my listeners and viewers have heard this, but when I went and I had GI issues for years. I mean, Bryan, it was horrible. And went to several doctors, gastroenterologists, there we go. Mm-hmm. And what did I get? Pills. I got pills, and it was untangling the pills because of the side effects from that. So I say that, and I'm sure you will too, there's a place for pharma, of course. We're so blessed to have such an incredible, science. But it really did not do me a service at all. And it was just unraveling that. So the pill doesn't always do the trick.
No, it doesn't, Tiffany, but it does help a lot of people.
Sure.
And I'm not against that side of it, but we know that medicine is very good at putting a Band-Aid on something, but it's terrible at fixing it.
Yes.
And so we got to look at what led you to that environment. Could it possibly be that you were so stressed out for so many years, even though you ate great and perfectly and did all the right things, you still had a lot of stress response, high cortisol, and not breaking down foods for years. Mm-hmm. We don't understand all the mechanisms of autoimmune yet, but we're getting there, very close. It's a lot of great information coming out on that. Mm-hmm. But we know when the immune system decides to turn on itself, it's for a reason. And so we're looking at trigger foods and things that the body's reacting against that used to be good guys. Now it's turned bad guys. I say the immune system's got the beer goggles on and can't tell a good guy from a bad guy.
Right.
And that's sort of what's happening. So yes, the pill may help the symptomatology of it, but usually what does medicine have? They got immunosuppressants, they got anti-inflammatories and antibiotics. That's all they really got to cure something that maybe started upstream in the stomach.
Right.
And that's where it really starts for a lot of people.
And how many
the digestive side?
How many people? Julie Kennedy, Dr. Kennedy, always the root cause.
The root cause. She's exactly right.
Absolutely. Okay, so is there any foods you would suggest avoiding for a better gut?
It's a great question. It's a big question because everybody is different.
Okay.
And that's the best part is trying to figure out what your offending foods are. Of course, for autoimmune, there's too much research on gluten and dairy. So, those are the obvious ones that a lot of people can cut out. But we know how tainted our food supply is, even in good rice and vegetables that we may eat. So it depends on what the issue is we're trying to achieve with that person and what path we may direct. That's the best thing I got. I got 1,000 tools to use. Mm-hmm. I just got to figure out which one's best for you.
Right.
And so it is a hard question to answer on that side. But at least starting by getting off the processed foods and the high sugars is a great first step. Get back to real food. Get back to, vegetables, good fats, moderate proteins, what we used to call a balanced meal. That's what we need to get back to.
Right.
Yes.
And we all are different. Okay, let's talk to Jack Doe over here that can't sleep. All right. What are we going to do with Jack? Because I've been Jack and Jane.
Yeah, Jack, for one thing, we're going to control Jack's blood sugar first. We're going to make sure he's eating regular meals throughout the day first. In the beginning, it's not lifelong. This is just to get him started. Get his blood sugar under control, maybe get him moving, exercise, get some morning sun, grounding. I think you've heard all these things before in the morning.
Does it really work?
A lot of people swear by it. So, it's very interesting that even placebo, if it works, I'm all for it.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm also going to give Jack, make sure he's got enough minerals in his body, especially magnesium, because magnesium does help with the GABA receptors of the brain. That's very calming. But so is GABA itself. There's nutrients of just getting GABA, L-theanine, 5-HTP, L-tryptophan. All four of those nutrients have one thing in common that most people have tried for sleep. They're all amino acids. And where do amino acids come from?
Protein.
Protein. So if we can just get them eating more protein in their diet, which that's the trend I spoke about earlier that's really growing, is we're finally figuring out we need more protein. You know, we were scared of it from the bodybuilding days of too much protein hurt our kidneys. That's a myth now. It's been disproven, except for people who have truly kidney disease.
Sure.
But overall, most of us need more protein. And so try to get that 1 gram per pound of body weight, at least to start with, for most people. Get that protein throughout the day in divided meals. It's amazing what starts to change when you're feeding the body the tools it's been deficient of for so many years.
What do you think? This is kind of spinning off that, but carnivore diet, is it too much of just one thing, or the protein or animal based?
I do look at it as it's a therapeutic diet, which means you say you got someone maybe with Alzheimer's or dementia or neuro issues. We know the keto diet and carnivore diet are very good anti-inflammatory for those types of groups. So yes, there's great diets out there for everybody, but there's never that one size fits all, if I may use your words from earlier. It doesn't fit all of people. Carnivore diet does have its place, but it depends on really what we're trying to achieve. A lot of people can't live on carnivore. And so I'm always the balanced meal person. I want to go back to not extreme on one side or the other. Let's get back to balance and understanding what that looks like again, because that's really where most people are deficient in. We're not getting enough of the vegetables. We're supposed to be eating 5 to 7 servings a day. We're lucky to get 1 or 2, and we're not getting enough protein. So that means we're living on all these processed fats, high carbs, and wonder why we're so inflamed. So it's an issue that we need to address and really start turning around and getting back to balanced principles.
Right.
And that's what I'm a fan of.
Hey, I am taking one of Erica shared with me. Why can't I remember? It's the Fruits and Veggie Plus.
Yeah, Fruits and Veggies Plus.
That works.
It's a great product.
I mean, and I love vegetables. I do. But
it's an awesome product, but I'm going to point out that usually works for the people who aren't eating enough vegetables already.
Okay.
So I'd rather you eat your vegetables first, but if you can't get all your veggie servings in, that's where Fruits and Veggies Plus come into play.
See, that's great, because I do. And sometimes, you know how it is. You just get busy. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
We all do.
You know, you forget. But
that's what supplements are all about. It's not about living on supplements. It's about supplementing your life where your weaknesses are at the time.
I was going to ask you that. As a company, as a brand and a company that is in supplements, can you take too many supplements?
Of course you can. You can take too much of anything.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I mean, honestly, I know it's kind of cliche. I take more pills away from people than I probably give it to them. Because they're taking too much.
Yeah.
Or they're not taking the right things.
Okay.
And that's where Sunflower Shop specializes in. We're able to say, okay, we take your bucket of symptoms that you're coming in with and seeing what you're taking according to that. We can tailor that very easily about what you really need.
I mean,
not just throw a pill at you. We're not commissioned, as you know.
Right.
We're out there really to help people in understanding why they're taking something and make sure they're doing it for the right reasons.
You know what? That's great. I've forgotten that, but your people are not commissioned, and so they are just doing it out the passion of your people at Sunflower Shop. I mean, it's just because they want to help.
Yeah, they sure do too.
You know, I mean, I really, at one phase of my health history last year in 2023, came to your group and just in tears. I was like, I don't know what to do. And, you know, and you were very respectful of the physicians and myself and my lifestyle, but it's just amazing.
Yes, it is.
Aren't you so proud?
We can all work together. That's the beautiful thing. I'm not against medicine and doctors and pharma. It's just that we need to understand there's got to be a balance on both sides. A pill is not going to solve all your issues. That you found out.
It's not.
I think health is a journey. You never really reach it. It's always going to be a journey, always changing.
You know, that journey, we're all lucky to just keep that journey going, you know, and that's
right.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
How do y'all, this is, I'm just curious, because you see on, you know, social media, the internet, your industry, my industry, healthcare, so many brands. How do y'all narrow it down to the brands? And I'm sure it's ever changing, right?
To some degree. I mean, we got companies, most of our companies have been around 20 years. So we got great rapport with them and their research analysis and what they do with the products, where they source their information from, or their herbs and plants and vitamins from. All that matters to us. So we definitely require a lot of that.
Right.
But you're right. There's a lot of bad companies on the market out there too. And we're always on the lookout. And people like yourself will walk into the store and say, hey, what do you think of this? We'll research it for you. We'll help you understand if it's good or bad. And if it's good, we'll tell you.
I know. And I am not trust me, I say this all the time. I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not a Bryan. I'm not anything. I know what I've taken, but when I do have friends or followers that I don't know that'll show me a product and I'm just like, check it out.
Yep.
Just because there was a coupon, just check it out. Come over to Sunflower Shop. And you do have consulting, so people across the globe can come talk to you.
Sure can.
So.
Yeah, we definitely can sit down and talk to you, get your health history, and just, sort of be your functional nutritionist between you and your doctor.
Well, you are amazing. I'm so proud that I live in the city with the Sunflower Shop, and people ask about it when I post about it. So
Appreciate you, Tiffany.
Well, wonderful. How can we find you?
Well, sunflowershop.com is the best way to go. And shop is spelled with 2 P's and an E. We got the old school style spelling there. We do. Grandmother loved the word shop that's spelled that way. And so, yeah, sunflowershop.com is a good place to start. I'm on there. My page is on there, plus, all our good information. But best thing is you need to come into the store and experience us. We're all about really we care for your health. And we're trying to get you to the next level.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here. And everyone, follow along with Sunflower Shop and listen to Bryan's podcast as well. Again, it'll be in the show notes. And if you have any questions, let us know. There's a lot of information we packed here in about 34, almost 35 minutes. But everyone, thanks for following along. And you know what I say every single Tuesday, keep being fabulous.